name is Cornelius Tonoi, and today we are talking about how to build software from scratch. So what you're going to learn is building software from scratch. So this course is for you if you have skills to do with IT, if you've learned IT, if you want to build software from scratch and you have a knowledge of a few details. So with my experience of building software for a long time, we want to learn how in a very simple way do software from scratch. So the concept here is the software, or any software, is actually made up of three parts, and that is database, and we have interface. So interface normally is what people call UI, or user interface, and database is where the data is residing. Now in between here, the third layer is what we call business logic. So that is what talks between the database and the interface. So what is a database? A database is where data is stored, and for any software that needs to read data from, or for the users, there has to be a database. So this is where the records are stored. This is where the user is interacting with. Now, so what happens here? Here, we also understand that interfaces can be in three forms. It can be what we call a mobile phone. It can be a web page, or it can be what we call Windows Forms. And some of the examples of the what we call RDBMS, or Relational Database Management Systems, will include something like MS SQL, that is Microsoft SQL. We have MySQL as examples. We even have MS Access. We have something like Postgre. We have something like Firebase. So these are the examples of the databases that can store the data for your software. So what happens here is that the user interface is where we key in or view the details. So what happens normally is that on your phone, if you're reading information, then chances are that information is coming from a database. If you're reading something from a web page or a website, chances are the data is resident somewhere in a database. If you're looking at a system on your PC or your laptop, chances are the data is coming from the database. So this is how to build software from scratch. So this concept here makes everything really easy, because so long as you know that there is somewhere to store the data, and the rest of the things that we see as users is what we have on the interface. So you'll get guys saying we need to do a website. But what does that website do? Do we need it to read records from a database? Someone says they want to do a mobile app. Then that mobile app, chances are it's writing information to a database. Or if you have a Windows form, then you're capturing details that are going to the database. So that is how everything works. Now in between the database and the interface is what we call the business logic. So some of the validations, for example, are done at this logic step. And with this concept, it becomes really, really easy to do any software from scratch. This is the journey that I'm going to take you through from building a workable software. And this is where we are going to begin. So the first thing that we are going to do is to design a software. Or normally that is where we call problem statement. So what do we normally do here? Let's imagine we want to do a software, for example, to do or to keep records for COVID-19 patients, for example. So that is just a problem. Or let's do a software that we want to manage a retail shop. Or if we are talking about a software that someone will do to manage his retail business, or hotel management software, a payment system, and things, a tracking system, and so on. So it all begins from here. And the question will be, now, where do we begin? So we begin by designing the database. And straight away, let's go to the database database design. So the first question would be, if we want to do a software to manage or to have a list of COVID-19 patients, for example. So what are we going to do? Or what are the details that we are going to take in for the patients? So the first thing would be, for example, name. That is very important. So what is the name of the patient? The next would be something like date of birth, because we need to know the age. Something else we want to know about the patient would be like a unique number, like identification number or ID number for that case. Something else would be, let's say, gender, because we want to know if they are male or female. Something else would be a country of residence. And let's say, for example, we want to know if they are still active in our database or not. So we can easily say is active. So if you were to do a very basic software that would have data of the COVID-19 patients, so we can say this is COVID-19 patients. So database wise, we're talking database, this would be the name of my database. So I would say this is my database name. Database name. So I can easily call it COVID-19 patients. Then what are these going to be inside our database? So the basic storage of data in a database is called a table. So I could easily have one table to capture the details of the patients. So I have a table that will have the name, date of birth, ID number, gender, country, is active. And these are the building blocks of any software. So what are the examples of the details that will go to a name, for example? What are the details that will go to date of birth? And so on. So here, every other thing here is called a field. So for example, I'll create a table in the database that will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fields. So my table will have 6 fields, namely name, date of birth. So what are the examples? So I can have name, for example, would be something like Joe. Date of birth can be something like 30th January 1970. Identification number would be something like 201, 202, 11. Gender, I may say, let me keep something like male. Country, let me say this is Kenya, for example. And then it's active, I would say yes. Now, this is what forms what we call data types inside our database. Because here we are storing names. So this is going to be text or what we call string. Here we are storing a date. And this, for data types, this is going to be DateTime or what we call dates. Identification, we may want to have this as a number or numeric. So this is number or what we call numeric. Gender can still be string, just like the way we have male. Country is going to be string, although we'll see that we may have to be getting that from a drop down because countries are already known. So this could be another string or integer based on if we are reading from, if we are typing in text or reading from a drop down of countries. And that will form another table that will show us in the coming days. Now, what is active is either yes or no. So this will take either yes or no. And this is called Boolean because it takes, or what you call bit, because it takes a yes or no answer. So simply speaking, we look at what you call a database name, we've seen that we'll do a table, and this could be what we call TBL names. That is the name of the table, because it's storing the names of the patients. This table will have, we said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fields, basically. So we have name and all that. Now, so the question will be, what will be the data type or which field? So name will have what you call string or text based on the information that it will store. DOB, which is date of birth, will have what we call date as a data type. ID number can have what we call numeric or number, depending on the database you are working on. Gender, we said that can be another string. Country, I want that to be what we call integer or numerica as well, because we'll be reading from another list of the country. So we are going to pick the country from a list, and that is why we are saying that is integer going into this database. Now, is active is what we call Boolean or bit. And that is in summary how to build database. Simply say, what do you want to store? What are the items that you are going to store in that database? And that will define the different data types as we've seen here. So what we're going to do here practically or hands-on is that I'll be using Microsoft SQL Server for database, and these are the tools that you'll need for you to follow what you are doing from scratch. So we'll need Microsoft SQL Server. Me, I'm using SQL Server 2016, and then for the interface, I'm using Visual Studio. So what is going to happen here is that the installation of both are out of scope of this course. So make sure that you have Microsoft SQL Server 205 and above, Visual Studio 2015 and above. And from there, that is what we are going to do. We're going to create a database. We're going to create a table. And we're going to create the different fields in that table so that we can now create the data types. And already that will be giving us a complete step-by-step process of building a database from scratch. Now we've created the COVID patients database. You can see tables here and other objects that will look like later. Now for tables, so to create a new table, you come here, new table. Now you want to create a table that will hold the names, like we said before. Now, although I did not talk about patient ID, it's always good to have that. And then we have name. Data type is text, or what you call varchar here. You can leave it at 50, or you can increase length. Next we have ID number. We said that was going to be a data type of int. Next is DOB, that is DateTime, date. Next is gender. We say that can be a varchar. It can also be int. Country, we said can say here country varchar, but later we'll edit so that we can have int, and then is active, which is Boolean. Here it is bit. So that is how to create a table. Now, some of the constraints or rules would include: can we have a null name? No. Null ID, it could be yes or no, depending, but we can do all that. Now we want the system to be keeping an identity for us, so we come here and say identity specification is identity, so that the system will be, so say we say is identity, yes, so the system will be incrementing the value. Once you've created the fields with their data types, which we now know why each and every data type is like that, we can save and call it TBL patients, or sorry, TBL names or TBL patients. So TBL must not be used. You can call it patients or any name, but I like it naming that way to show a table to specify a different object. So I can say TBL patients. As simple as that. And now if we expand tables, we'll be able to see that we created a table called TBL patients. Now, if I was to open that table, right click, select. So we're able to see that this is where we are going to store the information. And although this is not what we wanted to do today, I can easily come and write an insert statement. TBL patients, then name, ID number, DOB, gender, country, is active. Then I put the values by writing select. So I have name, we say that's Joe, ID number 22, something like that. Date of birth, can say 1970, 01, 30th. And then country, we say that we can do Kenya. And then is active, we write 1, which is Boolean. So for any string, we have to put it that way within the closing commas. This one is ID, and we said it's integer, so we must not put that. It can be done like that. Date is just date format I'm putting in there, starting with the year, month, and the date. Country string is active, is 1. Now, if I highlight that line and execute, says the select list insert has fewer. So name is Joe, DOB is this, oh sorry, no, DOB, no, ID number is this, DOB is this, gender. Now let me put gender here. Yeah, I was forgetting that. So good enough. We can always get errors down here. So I can say it's male. Now let me highlight that, execute. One row affected, so the query has been executed successfully. If I came back here, selected that, then execute, I'll see that, boom, one patient has been created successfully. If I was to insert another one directly from here, what I'll do, I can now say this is John, James, his ID number, this guy is younger, from 1979, different month. This guy is from a neighboring country, Tanzania, and he's also active. So if I just to highlight that, execute, one row has been affected. The query has been executed successfully. Then if I was to select that way, boom, now I have my 2 patients in the table within the database. Now, so usually as a user, you'll not be minding all this. So there'll be a mobile app that you key in the names and it comes to the database. Or you have a Windows form, you capture the names and it comes to the database. Or you have a web page that you insert data and it comes to a database. So, so while we are building an app, these are the things that we'll interact with, but eventually our data has to come into a table like we've seen here. So basically we started with the designing and saying, what do we want to capture about our patients? So first of all, what is the topic, or what is the header? So the database name we've seen is COVID patients. We created a table called TBL patients with the fields and the data types. The fields are what we call the columns with the data types that we've seen. And we've been able to create and insert values into the table. Again, we've been able to select and see that actually that information has gone into a database. So from then on, now we are going to do the interface for this and the logic for the same. Thank you.